Hello, everyone, and welcome to Queen's Court Conversation. I am so happy. And I want to say also thank you to all of my guests here, that they took the time out of their busy schedules to be here. I appreciate you coming. This, as you know, is a closing, by the time you get this, it will be the ending of Black History Month. But we all should make a note that Black History Month is 365 days a year. It ain't just 1 month, okay? And also, this is Heart Healthy Month, so I really believe that we should also take care of our hearts, mind, body, and spirit, because you can't do one without the other. Okay, so today's topic I decided would be about Black awareness, because it is the ending of Black History Month. And our guests and I will be unpacking some really serious issues that we have not been really talking about, that has been going on in the past 2 years with the pandemic. Now, we know that the pandemic was, as I always go, crazy. But we're coming out of that pandemic, even though we still have to be cautious and we have to look into those things. But if you think about some of the things that happened in the pandemic, we had the George Floyd, right, bill that hasn't been passed. Even though there was hatred with the Asians and stuff, Joe Biden got that passed, okay? So that's what I'm talking about. We have a lot of issues on the table that we need to think about and unpack today. But one thing, because it was also the month of Valentine, which is relationships and love, I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about how African Americans and people of color, our situations and how we do things may be very different than our friends and families that might be other races. So I wanted to talk about that. So first I'd like to introduce my guest today, and I'll start with you.
Hello, Troy Creasy, full-time father, full-time husband. I'm also the chief engineer, railroad engineer for the state of North Carolina. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name's Cortez Danzy. I'm a soldier. I'm a podcaster also. We're Not Experts Podcast. I'm a father. I'm a husband. And I have my beautiful wife here.
Thank you for serving our country. We appreciate you.
Yes, hello. I'm Mrs. Alice Danzy, and I'm just happy to be here. And I am a business owner, military wife, mother, and a child of God.
Bless you. Next.
Hi, my name is Clay D'Souza. I am a political and marketing consultant and based out here in the Raleigh-Durham area in North Carolina, and just happy to be here as well.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Roberts. I'm a certified group fitness instructor. At the moment, I do bilingual call service for a company called Excel Fitness. And that's where I met our lovely hosts
Oh, thank you.
at one of their facilities. Glad to be here. Really looking forward to learning something. I'm going through some stuff personally that ties into some of the questions that we're going to discuss here today. So I'm eager to hear what some of the young couples have to say as well. I've never been married, approaching 60, currently in sort of a relationship, going through some issues. So, like I said, I'm just here to really try to learn something and to give back something if I can.
I appreciate
I'm
it.
happy to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Next.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Little. I am a wife, a mother, a business owner, and I am honored to be here and support with my husband.
Thank you. And last but not least.
Hi, my name is Damian Little. Most important, I'm a Christian. I love serving the God of the Bible. I'm a business owner, owner of Temperature Pros Heating and Air, and I'm happy to be here today just to share thoughts and give input on what's going on in our culture and our society. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for having us. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
So on that note, let's get started and unpack. So the first question I'm going to ask is, why do you feel, and if you do feel this way, that traditional marriages are diminishing? And what do you feel is that makes a healthy relationship? And I'm going to start with you.
Me and my wife, we went through that and we did some research about some statistics and some numbers of why we believe that marriage is diminishing. And I'm going to let her read those. Read that, and then I'm going to come back.
Okay.
So in my research, I looked up just the demographic on Black marriage, and so it said that statistically 30% of African Americans were married compared to 48% of all Americans, and this was based on the 1950s. So it was more common back then to see traditional marriages and married families back in that time, but we have seen it decrease over that time.
Okay.
And so the question is, okay, what changed?
Yeah.
You know, what values were taken away from the Black
Right.
household as
Right.
to why it's not as much honored today?
Okay, so Damien, what do you think that is?
I believe the fathers are not being in the house.
Good
We
point.
don't have strong men
Mm-hmm.
in our communities,
Mm-hmm.
in our household, and just being a man in general.
Yes.
A man is going to take care of his family.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to provide for his wife. He's going to provide for his kids. And when we can narrow down and strengthen our men,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, and then if we get back to marriage, the
Mhm.
biblical way,
Yeah.
God's intention, one man, one woman.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get back to that, then we'll see our community strong in marriage, healthy marriages.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So do you feel that we can get back?
If we change our perspective, I
And
think we can.
How do you think we can do that?
Far as just our thought process with how we view marriage as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes down to what's being displayed, what's
Okay.
being advertised,
Yes.
what's being promoted,
Yes.
we don't have a good perspective of marriage. And I think that, we are creatures as human beings of habit
Mm-hmm.
and seeing it, and, there's just saying, you are a reflection of your
Environment,
your
yes.
environment. So
Mhm.
if the environment is not conducive for supporting strong, healthy marriages, then you're going to have a lag. in
Yes,
that.
absolutely, absolutely. So then my next question would be, is that they have done some studies, and that the Christian community in marriage is actually diminished more than the rest of the community. What do you think can be done to help strengthen that and build those numbers back up?
Going back to holiness,
Mm-hmm.
I think in today's church, when it comes down to just the holiness perspective, we're more secular,
Mhm.
we're more open to other things.
Mm-hmm.
So when you remove those principles and those standards, then anything can come in,
Right.
and then it's hard for you to get back to how it was because of the drastic changes that have taken place.
Yes, and I've always said, like my mother used to say, if you leave a hole open for the devil, he's gonna crawl in. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's an old saying, but it's true. Like if you leave a space open for negativity, then it's kind of like I used to describe a rotten potato in a bag. That one potato can spread across all the potatoes and leave a stain. You know. So moving on, so I wanted to talk about also how we feel about the modern woman. Now, I don't know if anybody have listened or heard of Kevin Samuels. Everybody here at the table? Anybody
Oh, yeah, I
have
heard of
watched
him.
a podcast of his? And he was talking about how he felt that the modern woman was the reason why there's such a low turnout in marriages, and that the modern woman needed to become more traditional again. Now, here goes the tricky part. How do modern women, because he used to always talk about people with master's degrees and getting up, by the time they hit 35, they are no longer eligible really for men anymore because they all, don't want them because they're just smart and they got 40-hour weeks. And, he's saying all this stuff. And his following used to be men, but now it has changed. It is women. And he actually said just last week, had it not been for the women on his show, his numbers would not have increased. So my question is, and I'm going to ask Joshua, do you feel that Kevin Samuels is right in some of his beliefs about the modern woman? And when they hit 35 to 40, the numbers go down and they have a harder chance getting married.
Yeah, so I would say, Kevin Samuels, a lot of his numbers, he's based upon, it's based upon sensationalism, in that, the internet and making money and being profitable based upon internet content is all based upon what goes viral. So I don't necessarily believe Kevin Samuels believes everything that he provides through his content. I will say that, society, first of all, we're black, African Americans, but we're also American. So I would say generally trends that happen to all Americans end up translating a lot of times in a major way, usually towards the negative side of things within the black community. It's been said a lot of times, if white America has a runny nose, black America tends to have the flu.
That's deep.
Yeah, so what I would say is generally, I think if you're 35 or 40, for men and women, I think, the older you get, it's a statistical thing in that there are just less eligible people the older you get. But we also got to temper our expectations too. I think the older you get, the more you have to be flexible with
I agree.
the companions and the people
I agree.
that you're looking for. Like, you can't be, a 40-year-old woman or man and expect to have somebody close to your age and they not have kids or have an ex-wife and all the things that come with that. Also, finance, when it comes to finances, generally finances are one of the major reasons why relationships in general don't work in America, especially in the black community. So if you think about blacks we do not proportionally have the wealth of white Americans or even some of the other ethnic groups in the U.S. So because if money is an issue, our relationships in general are going to have more issues as a whole. I think knowing that is the best way to combat that.
Yes.
If we start tempering our expectations and stop letting, internet content decide who's the best person for us, and we need to, decide on our own, what are realistic expectations, because I guarantee you, for every single woman that's out there, there's a single man that's out there that sees them as a queen and would love to, be in a relationship with them and pursue marriage. It's just a matter of getting both of those people in the same space at the same time and making it happen.
Thank you, Joshua.
Can I interject a
Sure,
little bit?
absolutely.
So yes, I do agree with some of Kevin Samuels' content is not necessarily, he doesn't necessarily have the best viewpoint when it comes to everything. I do think the way that he approaches certain situations does make a lot of sense.
Yes.
So us as African Americans, we don't really have, who do we look to for
Leaders.
Like leaders? We look to athletes, we look to people on television.
Okay.
Television and right now, there's so many spaces for women. There's no spaces for men on TV. There's not a space for a man to be a man on TV. I mean, we have shows like The View.
Okay.
We have a lot of different shows that show women how to be women, but we don't have any shows that show men how to be men.
Good point.
I agree with that.
And then Kevin Samuels, what he does is, I'm not agreeing with everything that he says or all his ideologies or anything like that, but his goal is to make people
Build
realize
awareness.
that, yes, build awareness and add some realism to life. So a lot of times when people go on his show, he asks them the same questions. He's like, how old are you? And what's your dress size? Things like that. And it may sound messed up, to everybody because we're so used to hearing things being pushed our way all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
But the whole point is, a lot of times, women that go on the show, they're very educated, and society is telling us that education is the reason why we should look to somebody who's our equal in regards to education, correct? That's what people believe for the most part, and that's what TV teaches us. They teach us that we need to find a suitable partner. But in the black community, there's more black women that are in school than there is black men. So we're pretty much telling our women that our men, they can't compete for them. And what he does on the show is he just talks to them a little bit, and he just tells them, like, hey, if you want a relationship of this caliber, you need to look at yourself and just really think about the things that you're doing. I don't necessarily, like I said, I don't agree with everything, but
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, though. That's a good point. Thank you so much.
And I'd like to interject as
Sure,
well
Clay.
to that, but everyone, all the men are making great points today. So I'm going to speak purely from a single black male's perspective. When I say single, I mean that's how I file my taxes, single.
Okay.
People want but yeah, exactly. I was always told that they don't ask you when you file your taxes, are you dating, are you in a situation? No, it's either single or married. So
Okay, go
that's
ahead.
how I file.
A lot of people need to take that on.
Exactly. But just to add to that, and if anyone who knows me well enough knows that I'm being in relationships in and out. But just to paint a broader picture, I think a lot of issues with the African American community and dating today is that, and I'm only speaking specifically about African American single women.
Right.
African American single women,
Okay.
speaking specifically here. So I'm just putting that disclaimer out there.
Right.
I think a lot of black women today, they have very high expectations for a unicorn type of black man. And I think to add to what Cortez, Damien,
Look towards the
and
camera,
what
because
Troy
yeah.
has, what
Yeah.
Troy Josh has even said, there's an expectation of a lot of single women. They want a baller, they want a dude who makes $1 million, they want someone who's like in the NBA, NFL, or a big time actor, or just a rich guy in general. They don't even care what he's doing. As long as he just got that dough, he's got that paper, he's got that cheddar. And
Good point.
and as he mentioned, a lot of them are very educated. And the statistics do back that up for sure. But I do believe that because the expectations are so high, to have a man who's like that, black women are taught to, you have to look for a man who's like this or else. So it's pretty binary. And what happens is when it's binary, that either a guy's a baller or not, you create a whole pool of women who just don't have men. And just even personally, I'll speak that in just in a lot of dating situations, there's this expectation that I have to fly him out to Miami, Atlanta, across all over the world in order to even be a suitable partner.
Wow.
Because they equate being a baller to providing security. But I can guarantee you that the black married couples that we have before us, that expectation isn't there. But the problem is that black women aren't like black women of yesterday, or even those who are more, I would consider, traditional. They don't want somebody who just makes 40, 50,000 or 60,000 a year. They want someone who's got nice car and everything. When those expectations aren't met, they would rather not deal with it. I've had women tell me, and excuse my language, I like nice shit, and I don't want to apologize for that. If you can't take care of me and my daughter or me and my son, then you're no good. So that's the problem. And social media adds a lot of curry to that as well, because social media promotes, you see nothing but black women on there, or brown women, wearing tight outfits, looking a certain way, and always going out to brunches.
Yeah, Clay, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I wanted to piggyback off of what you said, because you made a point there. Because that's what my next question was. Does the media demonize black men?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And really promote black women? So what's going on here in commercialism and stuff, you'll see black men all the time being, like, even on ads and stuff, as always in a negative light. Even in movies and different things, sometimes it's not always very positive. But what the media doesn't realize is that when they do that, it actually psychologically affects the black woman. So even she's now a little on edge, like, I don't know if I can trust him, you know. You'd be surprised how many black women get just as nervous as white women when a black man is walking past them down the street or in a store. That is what we call brainwashing from the media and society. We should not have to feel that way because a lot of us have sons, so that's ridiculous, but that's what happens with the media and commercialism and stuff. How do we change that? And one of the things we can do is start having more black men have their shows just like The View, The Talk. You know, Rowan Martin, I'm not going to say he got fired, but when he decided to leave CNN because they didn't agree with him because he was so upset with this whole thing with 45, he says, okay, I'm going to take my money and I'm going to start my own podcast on social media and I'm going to ask people to cash at me. And he went from low level and he just kept climbing. And then he started doing it his way. I think that black men are also going to have to just take control of that and say, okay, let's start coming together, trusting each other, building each other up, and start our own communities and shows and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff, because that's the only way it's going to change. It's not going to change any other way, because like you said before, African-American women, when they hit a certain pinnacle, most of the black women that I know are highly educated and can take care of themselves. Now, they may want a baller, but they don't need a baller. They already know how to take care of themselves. But society, social media, has put it in their brain that, you know, I gotta look like the rappers and all those celebrities and all that other kind of stuff. But what they don't understand is this. Most celebrities, and I'm talking about the true celebrities, they've been doing that career for 30 years. They didn't just like walk out the door, I'm a celebrity. They've been working on them to get that bag for 10, 20, and 30 years to hit Mary J. Blige's pinnacle. You understand what I'm saying? Go ahead, Josh.
So I think Queen D makes an excellent point. If we're ever going to see the media change in a positive way and change the way it portrays the black man, and as an extension of black family in America, it's going to happen from the grassroots. It's going to come from black content creators like Cortez, Queen D, Clayton. It's not going to happen from corporate America. Not anything that's really worth anything. I think you might, if you do see it come from corporate America, the ABCs, the CBSs, Viacom, including BET. I think that what they're going to do is give us what they always do. They give their perspective. They give their viewpoint and content of what it is for a black man to be, and then they tell black men that's how it is. And we say, okay, this is on CBS, this is legit, this is how it really is. How often do you see, when you finally do see a black man on TV, if it's, you see extremes, you see either extremely dangerous, poor, down and out mental health issues, or you see extremely rich. They're the DA, they're top judge, CEO, multi-millionaires. I'm like, I don't know any of these people on either side of the spectrum. It's like, where are these people at? You don't have the shows like The Rocks, The Martins, or anything else like that anymore, where you see normal black men, black families like the folks we see here in this room. There's really not a space for it anymore. So I would say, it's really up to us to take control of our content. Easier said than done.
That's right.
Everybody's trying to do it at the same time, and then plus, the algorithms and everything else don't necessarily work. I know you guys, I'm not in that space, but I'm sure them algorithms and whether or not you're live and whether or not people are actually, subscribed and become unsubscribed, and I really do think it's that intentional. Not putting on a tinfoil hat or anything like that, but I think it is.
It's intentional.
There are forces going against us to stop us from reaching our full potential.
Yes.
Can I say
Sure.
something? Because I know I watch TV differently than I watched TV when I was 18 or 15. I watch it a lot differently, whether it's BET or CBS, what have you. I was looking at some show on BET. Matter of fact, I was looking at some show last night. Ready to Love. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that. You know, it's about black singles and trying to meet your,
Is that
your
Tom
love
Joyner's
match.
Oh, yeah, I love that show.
Yeah.
Tom
Ready for
Joyner's-
Love, I love that show.
You like it?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's,
I like it too, right? So, but when I watch that show, especially if I watch it with my lady, right? It's like some of the way it's portrayed is like it's like the man has to be at a certain level, okay? And then it gets difficult because one man is trying to meet all the women so that he doesn't get disqualified because all of the women don't know him. But if you're interested in a particular woman, it says, well, you need to pursue that woman. So if you see somebody you like, go for her, but you're investing all your time in that one woman, the rest of the women say, well, I don't know him. He's not ready to love.
Okay.
You know, but you are ready to love because you beamed in on the woman that you like, and you're going to invest the time and put in the effort to build a connection there. But once again, the instructions of the show seems a little confusing.
Okay.
You know, so I don't know if you guys ever watched it, but the point I'm trying to make is that I think when we watch television, I think they want to confuse us, and they want to send mixed messages,
Yes.
so that we all don't be on the same page.
Damien?
You
Yes.
know,
Sorry,
and one more
I'm
thing
sorry.
that I had to tell you, you guys bring up a lot of good points, right? But one thing, when I was growing up, I did see more marriages than I do now, but it's the quality of the marriages. Do you stay in the marriage even though your man is beating the crap out of you? You know, I can't tell you the amount of women that I seen growing up with shades on during the night. You know, I grew up in an apartment building, 70 units in an apartment building, so you hear stuff. You hear the scream. You know, nobody ever called the police. Now if that was to happen, people are calling the police. We view domestic violence
Yes.
real, you know, different now. But back then, more marriages lasted longer, even though there were different issues. Let's just say domestic violence. And women, or I guess, you even heard it in the churches, do anything you can to save the marriage. You know, if you're getting beat up, suck it up, put some makeup on, and don't call the police, just do everything in your power to hold the marriage together. Versus now, you know, things are much different. Divorce rate is up, women aren't tolerating a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
And is it for the better?
Well, that's a good question, and we will come back to that after. Damien, you want to say something?
Yes, 2 points that I want to make, going back to
Joshua?
Joshua, and does the media
Mm-hmm.
and television make black men look bad?
Mm-hmm.
They do. They're showing us being weak.
Mm-hmm.
They're showing us being homosexuals. They show us being thugs. They show us being deadbeats. There are more successful black men that I know.
Yes.
I met you today. I look at you. I don't look at you as my enemy. I don't look at you as weak. I look at you. You're a soldier. Thank you for serving our country. The media wants us to be weak.
I was going to raise that point, and you make a good point. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Because I was going to ask Alice, how do you feel about Tyler Perry dressing up as Medea and his portrayal, and also his new shows that have come out? Have you seen any of them?
I cannot bring, stomach to watch it.
Okay.
I can't.
So that's why I don't know. I just felt led to ask you.
Yeah, I know a friend had recommended that I check out one of his shows that had something to do with cult, and it was just so. It made me honestly sick to my stomach, and I'm not sure why. This is the messaging that he's wanting to get across, and just in this conversation, I've been enlightened a little because I do watch daytime TV like the View, and it would be amazing to see a panel of black men.
Yeah.
Sharing their thoughts on
Yes.
what's going on in culture and society. Another show that I enjoyed is Nick Cannon's show. And I was, really excited to see that he had a major daytime slot in TV.
Oh.
But then I was a little bit disheartened when I found out that he was having baby number
8.
8 with his.
That was going to be my next question.
So-
Wait a few minutes. You didn't know that.
And
That was
Cortez,
gonna be my next
almost. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
May I say something?
Go ahead.
I think what you're saying is very profound. Me and my wife we dated for 4 years. 4 years. We dated holy. We did it right. When we got married, her goal and my goal weren't to have 8 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures. We built together. And we're at a point now, thank the Lord, praise the Lord, that we're able to provide for our family. And I think that's the image that what needs to be shown.
Yes.
I understand people talking about, you know, we got it out of the mud, okay, that's fine. But when you love your spouse, when you do it God's way, when you say, hey, for better or for worse. See, that's what's missing in the vows. For better or for worse. Sickness and in health. To death do you part. That's God's way. Now, we have challenges, but guess what? We work through those things. We come together. You know, she may not like something that I may do, okay? You know, I give her space, vice versa. But when you out here and just, he needs to have 8 figures, 9 figures, you're missing that man that got calluses on his hand that's a mechanic that could get you to that next level.
That's right.
So,
Love you to death, too.
Yeah.
So,
Honestly, I think
That's what I was
this
gonna ask
modern
Alice.
woman
Yeah, I
applies
was
more
gonna
to
ask you
younger
that, yeah.
women, because I'm almost 40 years old. I'm 37 years old. This is my second marriage. I mean, Cortez and I met, and we instantly started growing the church. We went to pre-marriage workshops through our church. Cortez serves at church.
Yeah.
We have a small group. So, like, we knew our intention going into our marriage, that we wanted it to be a marriage that was honored by God, and that God was going to be the head of our marriage.
Right.
We have marriage guardrails that the modern person might find, you know, a little bit unusual, you know, but it's what we do to protect our marriage and to, you know, we know what our goals are. We know we don't want to have to go through another divorce, because we, you know, we know how hard.
I was going to say, if I could just add to that. So a lot of times when it comes to marriage, I do think people step into it and they don't really, like you were saying, they don't come into it thinking till death do us part. They think of it as another relationship. And a lot of times they're not making, like, it takes you, your spouse, and God in order to make that marriage a strong, long-lasting one. And a lot of times people are missing that God portion. And I know we preach all this different thing about marriage, but when it comes to marriage, you can't expect, like, there's going to be times where you're sick of seeing your wife. And the only thing that's going to, or she's sick of seeing me, you know? And then only thing that you have is God leading you in the right direction. I mean, marriage is supposed to be a representation of how God was loving the church. That's what it's supposed to be.
That's true.
And people don't view it that way.
thank you so much. I appreciate
I
that.
agree that.
And-
When you said something that, you know, a light bulb went up in my head about when you're in a relationship and you're going in that direction as far as getting married. It's about you, your partner, and God. You understand? Not me, my partner, and her family. And every issue that we go through, I'm hearing it from somebody outside of us. You
Right.
know, and then when you express that, you expect that to be respected or honored or recognized. And then when that continues, or whatever the issue is, you know, and you share that with your partner, right, and you see it goes nowhere, and it starts to wear. It starts to wear on you. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, and I'm gonna.
Yes.
And
I'm going to let you finish,
sometimes-
then we're going to go to commercial break.
Okay. Sometimes, so then how do you balance, like, when your man is understanding, when he bends over backwards to make you happy? Some women look at it as weak. And then some women just recognize, hey, my man loves me. He's going to do whatever he has to do for me.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. And right now, we're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back. Hello, everybody, and thank you. If you were not here for the first half, wow, did you miss a lot. We are unpacking all the things that go on in our culture as Black people. This is Black History Month, and we are talking about some of the issues, just some, that are really concerning to us. And one of the issues we were talking about is Black men being demonized in our culture. And one of the things that we were talking about is Hollywood and how they are portraying us in the media. So, Clay, you want to talk about something that had something to do with that. Go ahead, Clay.
Sure, I definitely do believe that mainstream media, when I say mainstream, I mean white media, and within, for the sake of this conversation, that the mainstream white media is more comfortable with selling, promoting a LGBTQ plus African American man or woman because they see that, they quote unquote see that as not threatening. If you portray a strong black man, strong, powerful black man, they deem that as a threat. But if he is, and I'm not speaking against, I will put out a big disclaimer to the LGBTQ plus community, but as far as an agenda goes, the mainstream white media does not want to portray a straight, masculine African American male who's heterosexual, because they know the power that's within there. So therefore, as I was saying earlier with social media, it's all about creating the content that is appetizing to white audiences, white eyeballs, and that's always has been that way since Birth of a Nation, if we go all the way back a century ago. So we have to always keep that in mind when we're seeing these images. It's just morphed and transitioned over to social media now. What I was saying earlier was that it's almost, the social media has even made, it's demonized the black man to the point where, as our other guests have said, there's no middle ground. It's either very poor or rich like a bar. And that's very problematic. And I say from this perspective before we go to other guests for their feedback on that, we never see white men or any other groups of men characterized or categorized in those same ways in media images. You won't see that because they're the dominant as far as our society hierarchies them. They're the dominant force in this country, so therefore it's never going to be shown in a weaker light. So those are my thoughts on that.
Thank you, Clay. And I wanted to ask Alice, do you feel that Tyler Perry is doing a disservice to African American men by portraying them in, as far as dressing up as Medea, as far as a lot of his series now have a lot of homosexual little sections in it? What do you feel about that?
Absolutely, it's a disservice. I feel like to whom much is given, much is expected, and he has the opportunity and a platform to uplift instead of, denigrate black men by how he portrayed them. From what I saw in Ruthless, raping women and doing
Oh dear,
all kinds of,
I didn't see that.
It was very beating,
Very disturbing, huh? Oh.
Raping children.
Oh, Jesus, no.
Yeah, there was a lot of very traumatizing content, which.
I was going to say, besides that, even with all of Tyler Perry's plays, I'm not talking about the LGBTQ stuff. What I am talking about is every single time in the movie, there would be a black man that would especially like in his earlier movies, I can't really think off the top of my head, but I just keep thinking Diary of a Mad Black Woman,
Yeah.
where you got the dark-skinned man beating the crap out of the woman, and then the light-skinned man coming to repair the relationship. I just thought that was always a little weird and problematic also.
That's very interesting. Never thought of it that way. And that's why it's good to get different perspectives of things. So what do you think, Jasmine, about Tyler Perry? Do you feel that he is actually doing more harm than good to the black community? Because he started out as trying to build his audience with the black community and the Christian community, and now we see something different. So how do you feel about that?
I do feel that he is doing a disservice to our people, and I feel like when it comes down to just building the black community, it's very important that, you show those positive images. Even like his earlier movies, you saw, the father with the 3 kids taking his role as the dad and then having an established business later on. You saw more of those positive images, successful black women falling on hard times but being very successful. But then as the movies begin to progress, and I guess the appetite of the audience began to change, you saw more graphic, more denigrating images that were just really not even something that you can look through, even for the movie for colored girls or colored women. I just saw
even though these might be things that people go through, I don't think it's something that should be uplifted, because what it does is it actually puts it out there to other races that, okay, black women just really go through a lot, and, you know, we don't have it together, or we can't, you know, there's no other images of those black women overcoming that. So I think that it's very important that you show both sides of the perspective.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So then my question, I'm just going to throw it out there. Do you feel that us as black people are prejudiced against each other with color, from the darkest to the lightest? Where did this come from? How do we overcome these things? Because we are all black, and just like any race, there's lighter and darker. If you look at Jews, if you look at Italians, if you look at any race of people, they're going to be different shades in your family. This started way back with the Willie Lynch. If anybody knows about that, Google it. When he deliberately started making us dislike each other from the house to the field. But now that stench, that stink, that whole thing is still on us. How do we get past that? Is anyone got any suggestions or feelings about that? What about you, Joshua?
I think the first step is acknowledging it and talking about it. I think this is the first step to get by it. I think if we're actively, you know, a lot of people in, I know the military probably has this, corporate America, we're always doing these trainings, now in the state government, on unconscious biases, right? Obviously, they don't have a colorism unconscious bias training because that doesn't apply to enough people. But that definitely is something that has been programmed and institutionalized, and it's been that way since slavery. In order to enslave a group of people, you have to psychologically condition them in a lot of different ways and make them not trust each other, make them hate each other. That way they're never able to band together and break the cycle. You know, if I don't trust you across the table because you know you're in the field, or you're light skinned, or you're dark skinned, you have certain things. All those things we took with us all the way out. Here's the best psychological damage is the damage that you can program.
Yes.
That you don't have to, the predominant society does not have to continuously tell us anymore. It's programmed into our media, into our institutions. You look at, you know, some of the Greek organizations where they used to have the brown paper bags.
Yes.
You know, that determined whether or not you got in or not. That even goes.
It was so sad.
That even goes to the day. I mean, it's not as prevalent, but there, you know, you definitely do see on the internet, you know, the divide between. You see it more so with women, between lighter skinned women and darker skinned women. Not so much. It's more jokes with the men, but with every joke, there's a little bit of truth in that too.
Absolutely,
I would say.
yes.
But you know, the best way to get by it is to realize the damage that it does, because as black people in America, we come in every different shade. You know, you're only one generation away from being dark or lighter. You might have, you know, two parents that are, you know, brown skinned in between, and then they produce a light skinned and a dark skinned child. We're all, you know, generally fighting the same things in this country. When you go to the jail, you see dark skinned men, brown skinned men, light skinned men, and they're in that same jail, and you know, they're in the same place. Same with the military, same anywhere else. So the sooner we realize that we have a common struggle, and that it's not broken down by our skin, and our skin is one of the many psychological barriers and tools that are used against us to keep us from coming up, the sooner we'll be able to acknowledge it and come up with a plan to get by it and move on as a people.
You know, I
Thank you,
think it's
Joshua.
like
Yes,
I think
please.
it's like that potato that you spoke about earlier in the
Yes.
bag, and it just spreads to all the rest. So my background's a little diverse. You know, my grandparents from Jamaica, well, at least one of them. And my grandfather was from Guyana. Moved to Panama, where the language is Spanish. So a lot of times, even when I interact with Spanish people, you know, they'll talk to me in English, broken English, effed up English, but don't want to speak to me back in Spanish.
That's amazing.
Okay.
Say that same thing you just said in Spanish, so the Spanish listeners can hear you. Our Spanish
A
audience.
veces la persona hablándome en español, yo le hablo español, pero me contentan en inglés.
Thank you so much. We
So-
appreciate that.
So, and that's the dynamic too, and this happens all over the world. In Jamaica right about now, one of the big things over there is skin bleaching.
Brazil
it's-
as well.
Okay, even in parts of Africa, one of the
Africa,
number one selling products is bleaching creams.
Mm.
You know, and even you see it here when men are popular celebrities, whatever. Usually they go for a light-skinned woman. Not all the time, a lot of the times. You know, and I just think it's the way we condition. I go back to when I was a kid watching TV. I felt, and a lot of my friends felt, that we had to get a white one. You know, growing up watching I Dream of Jeannie, that's probably a little bit before you guys' time. I Dream of Jeannie, Green Acres, shows like that. And what that did was, when we became of age, we got on a train and went to Manhattan trying to find a white girl. You know, believe me, man. And like I said, now when I watch television, of course I watch it differently. I'm approaching 60. But I know how powerful that media is. Whether it's rap videos, whether it's TV shows, how important it is. But everything that happens, I try to like just bring it down to ground zero. How we interact as men with one another. How we embrace one another. I work in the gym. I come in contact with a lot of people. I make a conscious effort to treat everybody the same. But I do, I don't know if it's a self-conscious thing or whatever, I do recognize my own, you know, for whatever reason.
And
I
I'm
think,
just going to, sorry.
I don't know if that's self-love or what. You know, do you come to the aid, do I come to the aid faster of somebody who's dark-skinned like me versus someone that's light-skinned like him? You know, I forgot
Well,
your name.
I think it's deeper than that.
Cortez, you know.
It's okay.
Hey, man, my memory's bad. But you know, it's a self-conscious thing, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, I make a conscious effort, man, to chip away at that.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
definitely a self-conscious thing. I think that we're always more comfortable with our own. And sometimes we even criticize white people for it, but it happens with all of us. If you see someone the same color in church and out of a sea of white people, you feel more comfortable to go over to them. At jobs, anything. It's just something in us that feels very comfortable to be in that space. It's not always intentional or it's not malice or mean, it's just the way life is. So I was thinking about that when you had talked about those type of things and how do we overcome it. So you had mentioned to me that growing up that you wanted to be with white women. Now the world might go, oh my God, I can't believe you said that.
Girls.
White
'cause I
girls,
was,
yeah, white
at
girls,
that young
white
age.
people, or whatever. The thing is this, that wasn't intentional, that is because you were brainwashed by media.
I would have
Now,
to say yes.
listen to this. When we had talked about earlier about the modern woman being very successful and very educated, and it's only like to one getting married out of the four, I know for a fact that when we start making money, we want to get out of poor conditions because we don't want our children to be exposed to gun violence and drugs and all kind of things that go on in poverty. So as we make money, we start climbing up, we want to move out, we want to go to another neighborhood where it's safer because we want to have a healthy family. As we are making that money and those economic choices, what happens is we start seeing less and less of our own. Now, how do we do that and expect our children, I am a product of that too with my own children, the higher I got up, the less I saw of us. Now my children are around the only black children in their classes, in their neighborhood, in the gym, everywhere we went. And then what we do, sometimes without realizing it, when they start dating, we get offended. Oh, I can't believe you're with someone of another color. Well, what did you expose them to? What did you expect? This was your fault. You started this. And now you're blaming the children. Children, as a teacher, as a special needs teacher, are exposed to what they are around. Now, when they're small, they don't care. They don't see color. They're just as happy as they can be. As they get older, they pick up all of these negative feelings from the adults. We're the ones that started this, and then we blame them. They'll start dating, we'll start getting mad, we'll start getting in our feelings and stuff, but we forgot that the reason why we took them out of that environment is to keep them safe, and because we wanted to have better education. So now, what we got to do is start building our own communities and putting money and investing and voting for them to have better housing and all those things that we keep running from because we're trying to protect our own. And this is what the problem is with us. It's a very complicated situation because we all want our children to be safe and happy, and we want to be safe and happy. But what happens is we end up going to the other neighborhoods because they are funded and they have everything. That's just the way it is. So now we have to think about all these complicated situations, like you said. Our children get older. So I said, okay, because when you get older, you think differently. He said, you know what? Let's forget about all that. Marry who you love. Go back to how it was when you was in kindergarten and in daycare, because then you didn't see color in the first place, you know? Because I used to always say this to a lot of my Christian friends, and speaking now that I'm on camera, I was really upset with a lot of my sisters and brothers when I went to a very integrated church, which was done on purpose. I didn't want my children to believe that when they got to heaven, there was only going to be Whitney Houston and all black folks singing gospel, and that we were all going to be migrated in one pocket, in one section, and the white people were going to be on another section. That's not real life. That's not heaven. So I wanted my children to see that there were going to be all races of people, and everybody was going to love each other. So when I saw, and I got a rude awakening with the pandemic, that all the people that I had socialized with for 10 years in church, 10 years going to Bible studies and conferences, sleeping in the same bed with some of these women because we wanted, we didn't have enough money, so like, oh, we're going to 4 in this room, yeah? And then they all went to 45, and they all separated and became red caps. It was like, I cannot tell you how I felt. It was like, oh my God, is this the same person that I've been knowing for 10 years? Is this the same person? You know, because what happened was, what happens with all of us is at the core, we really have to check our hearts at the core and ask God to pluck it from the root, because there is prejudice there. You know, so these people that I was with and know very well and loved as my sisters and brothers, when they decided to split, I was like lost and baffled by this. I was like, because politics became the front and God was in the back. And now we are separating. And this is where our country is right now. This is where we are. With black people, white people, Asian people, everybody now has somehow lost their perspective on what's right and what's wrong with propaganda and everything that's going on. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation, because now where do we go now as African Americans with our families and our children? How do we navigate all of these complications that are going on with our children? How do we raise them? Do we say to them, oh, I don't want you to be could you get somebody that's a little darker? No. Are we going to continue to do that? Because it's in our families too. Not just white families are doing it, black families are doing it too. And we all have to be accountable for that kind of stuff. So that is one of the things that I want to talk about. So going forward, what are we going to do as our culture? Because there's a lot of complication with black love now. One of the reasons why black girls are having such a difficult time finding a man is because some of the things that Kevin Samuel, there is some truth to that. We have demonized black men and not given them certain opportunities, and the black girl has continued to raise and keep going higher and higher and higher. And then what happens is he's resentful, and she's like, well, too bad. And what happens is there's an attitude problem. And that is very complicated stuff right there, because the attitude comes from, well, how come you don't have a better job? Well, maybe because the man wouldn't give him a better job, right? A lot of black men don't get the same jobs as white men. or Asian men or Indian men in our country. You know, so, and they don't get as paid as the same salary, right? But there is a comfort level with the African American woman because she was in the slave house, she was in the master's house, she was running that house. Not only was she taking care of his kids, he was taking care of her kids. And what happened with that is, going all the way back there, a lot of times people didn't realize it, but she had a lot of control. She had a lot of control. A lot of people, they would go to her to ask her questions. They depended on her to nurse their children. They depended on her to make sure the house was running well. By the time she was leaving her house, she was not only sleeping with her man, she was sleeping with him too. That's how we got mixed kids in the first place.
The black woman, like
Yes.
you said. Because I know how I felt. I know how I felt when I first met you, actually. You know, the way you looked at me and you greeted me as, "Hey, King." You know, simple as that, and it was really natural. You know, it wasn't like something that you made, like if it was a trick or something. It just flowed. And when you said that to me, you never even realized it. And this is the first time I'm even saying it. That's probably why I'm here now. You know, just the way that made me feel when I walked away. You know, even though I'm going through whatever I'm going through privately, just that word, just the way you saying that to me, I was like, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? And,
Yeah.
you know, you get on top of my game. Just that word alone. So yeah, I think the black woman doesn't even, she doesn't tap into how much she can really affect things in a man.
And I have one question for the ladies here. I'm going to ask Alice first. Alice, how do you feel about what's going on in Instagram? Because Instagram has become pretty black now. I don't know if anyone's noticed it, but it's a lot of advertising, and we talked about algorithms, things done on purpose. A lot of women looking scantily. A lot of women are getting a lot of plastic surgery. I don't know if you've noticed that in the black community with women. And I'm not talking about age 40. We're talking about girls in their 20s getting plastic surgery and in their 30s. And what I saw this on K. Michelle the other night, and I was like really shocked. I had never seen this thing. Like, I was like, oh my God, what is going on? And what frightens me is that I'm wondering if some of this is done on purpose to box these women up, because how come it's only the sisters keep getting all boxed and messed up? And you got all these people in Hollywood, Caucasian women get rhinoplasties and bust jobs and never have all these problems. So I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about African American women, or young, not just American, but black women, whether they're Caribbean or whatever, getting all this plastic surgery? What has happened to our mentality that we feel we have to do this?
Yeah, there's a lot of I guess, inner pain, and you know, for that black women I feel like I deal with. You know, speaking for myself, I'm Haitian American, strong mother, and when I look at my mom, and when I hear women that you said only 1 in 4 getting married, I say, is it because maybe they just don't want a man? To be honest, like I have heard, my mom's been married twice, and she's at a point where she just said, and there's someone that's pursued her. She just wants to stand on her own, and it kind of trickles down because I'm the oldest of 4. I have a brother who's a police officer. He, on his own. I have a sister who's very independent. 2 sisters, very independent. And they're younger and they're on social media, so I'm not really on Instagram. I have a business account, but for my childcare, but I'm not really on social media. Just because I'm more of a traditional woman, and I'd rather be more focused on taking care of my household and my business and my kids. But it's definitely, detrimental. It's really unfortunate. And when we spoke earlier of women wanting money, maybe that they're wanting that because they feel like they're not going to get anything else. They're at a point where they feel like they're not going to get it. They're not going to get love. They're not going to get loyalty. So they're just going into it saying they might as well just get
Business
Oh.
transaction.
money. Yeah.
Wow. What do you think, Jasmine?
I think it trickles down to just the influence of the media. You see celebrities like Kim Kardashian, and you see all of this surgery and stuff done, and her, Beyonce, they are like the ideal image.
Hold that thought. Now, you said Kim Kardashian. did you think that we all need to look like him or her, or is she trying to look like us?
She's trying to
I think it's more she wants to look more like us.
And so somehow it bounced off and we started thinking we want to look like her, but it's really in reverse, right?
Right. Even the way, she's had several things done to her body to give her that hourglass figure. And so, when you see things like that, and like you said, we are at the age of like social media. So that's what people are kind of pouring into to get, insight of what they should look like, and I think her sister, she had put a post, she did like a challenge. So these challenges also like changes the mindset of how people respond. And so young girls was doing what they saw her do and was being hospitalized and getting injured.
Oh my gosh.
So,
That's awful.
Social media is a very powerful tool, and even like I was watching an interview with some of the engineers on the back office side of the social media platforms, and they were saying that they were designed to change the way a person views themselves. So over time, it's designed to make you view yourself
Wow.
completely different. Like it's not even what people don't know what they're setting themselves up for.
Wow.
It's very toxic.
Yes.
So if you are not strong-minded to be able to look at it and still have a strong sense of who you are, you'll get sucked in. And I think a lot of that has really affected why, Black women are, like at the age of 20, doing the plastic surgery, changing their bodies, not having that self-love about who they are. Most of that is just based off of just trying to look like something that they're not designed to.
So my question would be for both you ladies who have small children, how, do you have daughters?
Yes.
And you have daughters. How are you gonna raise your children in a world of just technology? This is 2022. How do you protect them from all this stuff?
Now, with our daughter, we monitor what she does. She doesn't have any social media accounts or anything like
Okay.
that. And even when she sees things on YouTube,
Okay.
What's really trending now with the kids is like the videos and, the kids opening toys and, just talking about all the latest trends and stuff like that. And, I explained to her, it's okay to watch it some of the time, but don't let it consume you to try to change who you are.
Okay.
Because, God made you great and you walk in who God made you to be. And you set the example, you set the standard,
Right.
be that positive role model leader.
And
Yes.
can I interject for a
Sure,
minute?
absolutely.
As the father,
Mm-hmm.
it's my job to tell her, you're pretty, you're beautiful.
Absolutely.
If
Absolutely.
you see little Miss Hot Tail and you see all this other stuff, that little Miss Hot Tail her father may not be in her life. So guess
Yes.
what? She's looking for love in all the wrong places. That's why I said the father has to be in the home.
Yes.
Set the tone. I tell my daughters all the time, my wife can tell you this, I tell her every day, you're beautiful, you're pretty. Because guess what? When she get older, out there, young man that may marry my daughter, guess what? The game, the tricks, the scams, all that, I'm telling her. I'm
And
telling my
spoken
daughter,
like a true king.
I'm telling her she's pretty.
All right
So
now.
when you come and say that, guess what? It's already programmed in her head. My
That's
dad
right.
tell me I'm beautiful.
That's right.
I'm pretty. So you just adding on to what I have already implanted in her.
Joshi, I know you have a daughter.
Yeah, I have a daughter. Just to this point, I'll look at my daughter sometimes and she's watching those YouTube videos all day. And it's amazing how they watch other people play games and unwrap presents and play with toys. It's their own version of reality TV in a weird way. So in a way, it's actually setting them up to be adults and look at the same things. So that, I'm very concerned about this. But, what I will do, there's a lot of times I'll tell her about her hair. Her hair looks pretty. I give her hugs just randomly. I'll randomly just tell her I love her. She hasn't said anything. She'll just be sitting there and be like, I'm like, Bree. She'll look at me like, yes, you bother me. I love you. And she said, I love you too, and a smile. Just so she always knows that even, we're busy, we're adults, but everybody's busy working, 40, 50, 60 hours a week. And it's easy to lose sight of those relationships with our kids sometimes, because we're so busy, we're in our own head a lot of times. We're doing, sometimes you'll find or even feel like you're doing the bare minimum for your kids. You know, you're making sure they eat, they're well dressed, they're taking their baths, but outside of that, you know, you're kind of just trying to recoup from everything you're going through your daily life. And sometimes you gotta say, hey, I need to plug back in and with my kids and let's go for a ride around the block. You know, something like that. I'm thinking
That's
about
beautiful.
you.
That's
When
beautiful.
when they are in school, that's 8 hours that they are influenced
Yes.
by their friends.
Yes.
You know, to all the teachers out there, you know, that are doing their job correctly. You know, we applaud you for that. But you have some teachers that tell, hey, be like this person, be like that person. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, I have a son. I think one day when he play football, I think he's gonna be great. But I don't want you to mimic LeBron James, which I'm not speaking down on him, but be yourself. Stay in your lane. There's nothing wrong with looking up to that person, but be who you are called to be.
Yes. Be the best version of you.
Kids will go outside the house looking for what they don't get in the house.
And
You don't
just-
support your kids, you don't love your kids, they will go out and seek that love from their friends, strangers, all that stuff. Because kids want to be loved, they want to be respected, they want to be a part of something. So if you give your kid everything at home, you know, the likelihood that they need it from somewhere else goes down a whole bunch. That's the best we can do as parents.
So then
Can't
my,
do anything more than that.
thank you. I appreciate that. I'm sorry to cut you off. So what I was gonna say, so what do we say to all of the, sorry, Alice, what did you say?
I said the same for spouses.
Yes.
You have to give them everything they need
Yes.
at home.
Yes, and what my question was gonna be is that the men here at this table are just wonderful kings because they take such good care of their daughters but what do we say to all those single parent women who have daughters and sons? How do we help them going forward? Because they're part of the community and they're gonna affect this community that we're in, this world that we're in, and they need a chance too. So what do we do to help them? How are we gonna navigate through all this stuff? Anybody?
So, just for me, because I was raised in a single parent household,
Okay.
the biggest thing that I can say is whatever you are lacking in the household, you need to find some type of mentor for that person.
Yes.
Like when it comes for, especially little boys, like as a man that was raised by a single mother, I didn't have many, well, actually I did. I had my uncles who were very good role models. And my dad, he would come around like every once in a while, but just having somebody out there that's active, that's doing something, like, they don't even have to be doing anything great. Like you can just be a regular person.
Quality time.
Yeah, just spending time. Because a lot of times I just remember this one kid we had in the neighborhood. Nobody ever acknowledged him. He just kind of just walked around. He was real dirty. His mom, she was on drugs, but that's all that he had. And eventually, you know, he became pretty much in that exact same cycle that his father was in, because his father was in prison. All he needed was a role model.
Yes.
Just somebody to tell him, like, hey, I see you. You're doing great things. You're an amazing young man. And he would have been fine.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And on a positive note with that, how much time do I have? Anybody? What's the time?
We're
It's
over.
2:22.
Okay. On a positive note that I had wanted to say is that living in Queens, New York, I lived across the street from a family called the Jackson family, and they were very close to my family, the Claytons. And one of the daughters from that family, she was kind of like a bully, but she was also nice and friendly to our family because my father was friendly with her grandparents and stuff. And when she got pregnant, she came over to my father and she says, "Look, Mr. Clayton, here's my baby." And he looked at the baby and he says, "I'm going to give him his first $1." That was Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent.
Wow.
Oh.
That's right. So it just goes to show you, because he had his grandparent and because it was a community spirit going on there, that helped him. Yes, he got into trouble, but he got out of it because he still had a foundation. You know, and as long as we build foundations in our children, hopefully, they might go through stuff that's called teachable moments. But if they learn from it, they will come right back full circle.
Yeah.
And they will be okay. You know, and the best thing, like you were saying, is you have mentors and keep your children in church organizations and different things. If it's so important because all those things help in the community for our people to help raise our children. It takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
Like you said, he was wandering around. It takes a village to raise a child. Yes.
I think another thing, we're missing discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Discipline is good.
Mm-hmm.
When someone do something wrong, we can't be scared to correct.
Yeah, that's a lot going on with these children today. The parents don't want to correct their children.
So,
I've never heard anything like this before. Yes, Joshie. Thank you.
I'll just speak to, you know, single parent households. Whether it's the father or the mother,
Mm-hmm.
if they want to be in the kid's life and it's reasonable, let that father or mother
Yeah.
be in that kid's life. Do not push
Yes.
them away.
Yes.
They don't have to
Absolutely.
be Jesus or walk on water.
Yes.
Everyone's got their flaws.
Right, yeah.
Don't take it out on the kid. You know, an imperfect parent that wants to be around their kid is better than no parent at all.
That's right.
And there's so many parents out here that eventually give up, for better or for worse. You know, you like to say they should keep fighting, but there's a lot of parents out here that eventually, psychologically, it's too much of a toll. Different things happen, and eventually they
Yes.
fade away. And the kids notice that, and it does matter. It hurts them. You know, yeah, they can still be great in life, but you know, anything that helps and aids that child's development, you know, by having that parent around, even if it's part-time. It doesn't have to be
That's
every
so
other
important.
weekend, doesn't have to be every day, but if they want to be around, let the parent be around. And I think the likelihood that the results for the kids are better goes up by a whole bunch.
Thank you. And I wanted to say one thing because this is so important for parents out there. Every day is not Christmas. Every day is not your child's birthday. You know, those parents who are spending all their money every week, every time they go out, and the child says, please, can I have this toy? And you get it just because you have the money, is detrimental. Because what happens is they don't learn to appreciate
That's right.
toys or anything. And when they get older, they still won't appreciate it. Yeah, life is not like that. And you're making them unhappy because they feel like you have to keep giving them gifts instead of giving them time. And they need your heart and not your wallet. They need to spend time. That's why a lot of rich children hate their parents. And you'd be thinking, well, shoot, you got everything. Well, you don't have the parent. You know, the parent's not around, so how's that going to work? So it's very important to spend quality time with our children. And when they get older, believe it or not, they're still your children. Grown children need support too, because they don't have the answers. They need someone that they can talk to. Just because the number changes to 18 doesn't also they get a light above it. It goes, oh, I'm an adult. I know everything now. It doesn't happen that way. Just like we as older adults, we still are learning and changing and growing. They need to know that they can come to you as a confidant and speak to you without you pointing your finger and telling them every horrible thing they've done and all that kind of stuff. Because what they're going to do is find someone else to take that place, and it may not be the right one.
A lot of times it's not, you know, because
Yeah.
I grew up in a one-parent household too.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how, you know, you guys, I want to commend y'all, you know, because it's not easy, you know, in the relationship, raising kids, married, all that brings. So I definitely want to commend y'all for that. But, you know, I know my mother, she broke her back, you know, I didn't want for anything growing up.
Mm-hmm.
But in turn, I seeked out all the wrong role models, you know what I'm saying? And in
Yeah.
turn, I made a lot of decisions that I regret until this day. But nevertheless, you know, I can't stress how important it is that time. You know, like gentleman over here said about just telling his daughter that he loves her. You know, just that
So
time,
important.
sitting down, talking to your child and establishing a relationship with your child so that the child will feel comfortable coming to you and talking. You know,
Yes.
that's definitely what it's about.
That's so important, because I think about my father. My father would always call up and leave a message. And I didn't realize the significance of that. He would go and go, hey, daughter, I love you, bye. And you'd be like, oh my God, it goes that again. But what happens is, you start to expect it. And then what happens is you want it. It's like, oh, Dad didn't call today and say I love you and bye, you know? So, and it actually resonated in my spirit. So now I just said, I'm just going to adopt that. So whenever with a friend or a family member, if I don't hear from or whatever, I'll just come go, hi, I love you. Just wanted to say that, bye. And they'd be like, they just start laughing. They get so happy, you know, because that word love is so powerful. You know, to say I love you to anybody, it just changes their whole demeanor. It's so important that we do that. So we're going to be closing, but I just want to give everybody an opportunity to say something. What inspires you, and how do you inspire your children?
What inspired me is knowing that I'm loved by our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Because without Him, we're nothing. Scripture teaches us that in Him we live, move, and have our being. So that's what inspires me. On that note, my wife inspires me, my kids. Just being around you guys. Because even though we're different, we kind of all think the same. As far as, you know, how you raise your daughters, you're married. You're not married, but you still want those views. So this is inspiring.
Yes.
Because we're not by ourselves
Right.
in this.
The journey may be different, but we're all like-minded in that spirit. So how do you inspire your children?
Well, how I inspire my children is I try to set a godly example, especially before my daughters, showing them the qualities of a good woman, a wife, a mother, and even for my son, the expectations that are needed or that he should be looking for his wife, because time is going to go on
That's
and you're going to
beautiful,
grow up. And
That's
you
right.
want to make sure that in life you played your role right before your children, because I've always told my husband this, I said, when God gave me the opportunity to carry these children, I'm now charged to deliver. And so that's what I want to make sure that I do.
Thank you so much. It's beautiful. Chris, what is your vision?
God, you know, He turned my life around. You know, one day I woke up and it was like a light bulb. And started making some changes in my life. And because for the early part of my life, you know, I was really, I was just going in all type of directions. Wasn't responsible, didn't care about a lot of stuff. And then, you know, just came a time one day, you know, just something went off in my head that, you know, I had to make some changes. And so God definitely is the reason that I'm here today, and I feel He inspires me.
Can you say that to the Spanish community?
I think I just want to keep that here for now.
No, I'm talking about just to tell the Spanish community, because there's a lot. See, what is so important, what I love about you is that when people see you, they see a black man, but they don't see that you're also diverse and that you can speak to other African Latinos, which always gets pushed under the rug. They never get their due.
Yeah, they don't really recognize.
And they don't even
African,
recognize
Hispanics,
exactly.
or Black Hispanics.
And so I wanted you to tell them that, to keep their vision and to stay positive and know that they are going to be recognized, because a lot of people don't realize that things are changing now. A lot of things are becoming Latino now. But
that much is true.
right, so that's why I said say something to them, because they need to know that they're recognized, and going forward that all of us are going to have to recognize African Latinos. I was very happy to see that on The View when one of the ladies on the panel had brought that to everybody's attention. What was her name, Clayton?
Are you referring to Sunny Hostin?
Sunny Hostin,
Okay.
yes, because Clayton has met Sunny. Yeah, and Sunny has talked about how important it is for African Latinos to be recognized in the community as well, because we just like, they don't exist, you know. I hate to say it, but that just sounds, sometimes people look at them like they don't exist. They just seem like, okay, they're black people, huh? But they don't realize that they are diverse, they have different things in their background and go on. They have to navigate with their children. And that's difficult sometimes when you're trying to raise your child to keep their heritage, and also tell them that they're only going to recognize you as this, but when you come home, speak like this. That is a real concern too in our community that doesn't get talked about.
Well, you know, one thing before I do that, if you notice now, you hear more people talking their native tongue, whether it's Spanish, whether it's Creole, whether it's some type of African dialect. Because I know when I was growing up, everybody kept that quiet. You didn't talk your native tongue in public.
I remember.
Okay,
Yeah.
because you didn't want to get deported, you know, or you just didn't want people to know. You know, it's
Right.
crazy how
Yeah.
times has changed.
Yes.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Now it's like the United Nations, especially in New York. You know, there's places in New York that none of the signs are in English. You know, it's in Spanish.
It's like that in Miami too.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, so the times are definitely
That's
changing.
good. That's good
You
to
know,
know.
pero para la comunidad hispana y para la gente de color, viene el día que nosotros nos vamos a reconocer de gente de color. Y no tenemos que escondernos porque somos latinos africanos. Vaya.
Thank you so much. Clay, what's your vision?
Well, my vision is certainly I'm motivated, inspired by folks here on this panel and everything that they do to keep themselves and families and their communities uplifted. It's certainly an inspiration to me, but I myself want to continue to educate, inform, inspire, and help change. That's even one of the reasons why I also co-produce this show, Queens Court Conversations, as well, so we can have these conversations, these candid conversations, and they're not going to always be pretty palatable conversations. I want conversations to be raw and us to have healthy, spirited debates even. So that's just my goal and vision for, obviously, this show as well. But first for me in general, for myself personally, just like the Jagged Edge song, I just want to get married too. I'm going to sing, but I'm not going to share nobody.
Yes, a good quotes. Yes, a good quotes.
I just want to get married. Yeah, it's true. I'm certainly, but yeah, seriously, I certainly am a king. I know my value, and I'm not going to discount my value as well. And the right queen is out there for sure. So if they can't recognize my value, I'm not putting it for sale or on layaway.
All right now, look like a true king. Let's give him that one. And Alice, how do you inspire your girls?
Through teaching them about positive affirmations, and I try to be a good role model as well. I'm reading Crazy Faith, I'm reading Dr. Phil, even reading different books, so that the talk that's coming from within is more powerful than the talk that's coming from the noise. And today I've been inspired by each of you. I'm really glad that my friend Clay here invited us, and I've been inspired by the Queen and
Thank you. I appreciate that.
positive affirmations, and of course it's inspired by.
Oh, that's a blessing. Okay, Cortez, your turn.
So, first and foremost, God, that this relationship, like, I wouldn't be able to have a wonderful marriage with this woman without God. Like, first and foremost. I mean, not to make it sound like she's a horrible person or anything, but she's the person that inspires me the most. And when it comes to inspiring my children, I just try to lead by example. I don't always make the best decisions. I'm not always perfect, but I stand on what I believe, and I stand on everything that I do. And I just want them to be confident out in this world also. All right, because we're not all going to make the right decisions.
Right. Thank you so much. And Josh, how are you going to bring up your young king, your little boy? How old is he now?
He is going to be 5 months in a few days.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so
he's
beautiful.
real fresh.
Yeah.
And my daughter's 7.
Yes.
So, my inspiration for them is to help them to avoid all of the potholes and obstacles that there are in life. Life is the best teacher. I've failed so many times. I've run into so many roadblocks, and I've been fortunate to overcome all of them. But they all left scars. And I always said, man, it'd been nice if my mom could have told me this. It'd been nice if my dad could have told me this. Just so many small things that if you don't find out in the home, life will teach you one way or another. So for me, I want to give my kids all the cheat codes to life so that they're worried about the next levels of things I'm worried about as I approach 40. I want them to be aware of them and approaching those things in their 20s so that they can do better things with their life and maximize their lives to the fullest rather than having to pick up the pieces and figure it all out several times along the way. So I'm really excited about that. Being that it is Black History Month, I'm inspired by the folks at this table. You guys are, very, very inspirational people. You're doing great things, and this is a small pocket of the group of people that you really don't see. We talked about that. You really don't see the folks that are here the way you should. They don't have the visibility. I'm inspired by Malcolm and Martin's visions for the U.S. I've gone back and read, a lot of their books, James Baldwin too. That stuff really, the true MLK, the true Martin, or the true Malcolm X, James Baldwin isn't talked about at all. They had very, very strong visions for our people here.
Yes.
And almost everything that they wrote applies to today.
Yes.
The same issues that they were going through in the 60s, we are going through today in the 2020s. All those lessons that were learned then, we actually can apply now. And I think as we become more aware of Black intellectuals of the past, and as we identify the Black intellectuals of the day, and we're able to learn collectively, I think that is going to be some of the first steps to get us as a community in the place that we need to be.
Thank you so much. And on that note, I just want to say thank you, everybody here at this table. It has been a blessing, and I'm sure people outside of this on YouTube will see this, and hopefully that you will be blessed by this. This, one thing John said, life, I think Alice said it too, life is a classroom, and you get all your lessons from life. It's a teachable moment, and hopefully we learn from those things, because the more things change, the more things stay the same. But hopefully we won't be like a mouse on the wheel. We will get off that, and we'll continue to evolve and grow. And I just want to say thank you to WRJR Jazz and Gems Network for allowing me to have this platform. We've had a candid conversation here. We unpacked a lot of things. And hopefully that with going forward, we will all just continue to grow and be blessed. And I know that we will. Thank you again.